Sonic 1992 Manga Chapter 1 by Tanaka. The one that Amy came from. Unfortunately, some of the chapters in this are lost to time, which really goes to show you how little the Japanese care about Sonic. We start out seeing a pizzeria, and some text describing the various main characters. A hedgehog girl named Tanya, who's Nikki's tomboy sister supposedly. Nikki, the main character who's called Kind. I hope we actually see that. And Amy, his girlfriend. Nikki's actually Sonic. I know that because that's the one thing that's famous about this manga. So, what about that supposed Sega mandate that Sonic's not allowed to have a girlfriend, let alone date Amy? Amy was first created as Sonic's girlfriend. I wonder what changed their mind and caused Amy to be rewritten as someone Sonic avoids. We see what looks like classic Eggman in a worker's outfit standing on a pedestal advertising pizza, and someone laughs at him. I guess it's a statue. It's hard to tell when everything's in black and white to rush the story out as fast as possible. So far this is a shockingly mundane start, but anything's better than another story about Sonic beating badniks at Green Hill Zone. At least this makes Sonic relatable. Amy tells Sonic to not tease the policeman after she says Dogman's traffic control is funny, making fun of the sound it makes. Then at first I assumed Sonic was drunk and passed out, as I wondered why the translators were too lazy to translate his dialogue and just had him say a meaningless Munya. Oh, wait. Tanya isn't the one with glasses? Oh right, I guess the one with the eyelashes. Well then, that text could have been placed better. The Tanya text should have been placed over Tanya. It's kinda hard to notice the eyelashes because they're so small. Anyways, it turns out Sonic was just taking a nap, and the bottle in front of him meant nothing. Seriously, since when does Sonic wear glasses? Of course I didn't know it was him. That and the art was in monochrome because the story was rushed. You know, I have to wonder how long it would have really taken for someone to use Microsoft Paint's paint and brush tools to film the character designs at least with color before uploading the manga. Sonic gets given an extra large pizza. Then out of nowhere they get sprayed with steam and it makes the pizza dirty, and we see Anton. I guess he's the cringe-worthy stereotypical bully character who's written really lazily. And his car was what ruined the pizza, because apparently the smoke from the car reaches all the way into the pizzeria, which you'd think would have its door closed and its windows closed. Why'd he do that? This is hard to watch. Sonic orders another pizza, being smart enough to know he can't beat him up. Anton unsuccessfully tries to get Amy to ditch him for him, and Sonic gets sent away towards some hair tonic his dad uses. Some liquid lands on him, whatever that is. He thinks that he's weak compared to his father. So what was that about there being a supposed Sega mandate that Sonic's not allowed to have parents? Can Japan do things that America can't? And there's a line from him saying that Anton is forcing himself on Amy. You know, for kids. He wishes he would be stronger someday. Piles of hair tonic fall on him, and then he's surrounded by smoke for no apparent reason. We could have been told that the natural chaos energy of the world powered him up to be nice, and that would have made more sense than this Deus Ex Machina, where suddenly Sonic can hit away Anton's pizza, make him bite his hands, send him upwards, and snatch away his pizza and eat it because now he's so fast. You know, if this was Archie, maybe it could have made more sense because we could have been told that the ancient walkers were what made him have this power. So now Sonic actually looks like himself. And his glasses magically disappeared into a pocket dimension for his own convenience, I guess, because we didn't see him put them in his shoe at super speed. A table topples over on him. I guess the people working in the pizzeria hate Anton just as much as he does, and that's why they're just standing there letting him bother him. I guess I should be more thankful that it's not just Eggman again. But it's hard to watch a glaringly stereotypical bully character from every kid's show ever. I don't want to be reminded people like him exist. But I could watch Sonic humiliate him all day. He catches all the pizzas thrown at him, as inexplicably, both Anton and some smiling other guy are able to get away with throwing pizzas at Sonic. I hope I see them get in legal trouble for this. Especially since surveillance cameras are everywhere. They would have caught that. It It would have been good writing to show them getting karma. Sonic runs around in a circle, spreading out the dough as it all fuses together. Throws it at him, wasting perfectly good dough as it lands on the floor. And he puts on plenty of pizza sauce. All without the consent of the people working at the pizzeria. He could have given the dough back to the people of the pizzeria. Instead, his secret identity is the only reason he won't get in trouble for this. And then he puts Anton in the oven as he's covered with dough. Wait, what the fuck? Well, it's at least fascinating to see a Sonic that's a sadistic psychopath for once. And I know this guy deserves it. But the things this manga can get away with. I can't even imagine Scourge doing this. Because he's the same guy who didn't kill Patch after he tried to kill him 4 times in 1 week. Then Anton's this giant pizza and he's somehow still able to talk. And say that he's burning up. Huh? And they're eating the pizza, so it's not like they're complaining that it's too cold and so he wasn't put in the oven for long enough to kill him. Even AOSDH made more sense than this. Sonic casually says that one mix special lizard pizza is served, and I'm guessing no one's going to call him out on doing this because he's the main character. Sonic tells him to go swim in a lake if he's hot. I guess batting him away. And he'll just miraculously fall into a lake when Sonic threw him when he couldn't see where he threw him. I'm reminded of the other M comic with how I constantly struggle to tell what's going on because of the lack of color. But this looks better than it. But even the other M comic didn't have Sonic bake someone into a pizza, and that pizza somehow stays alive and miserable. The chaos energy of Mobius has really been active in the story. Either that, or Sonic has the power to keep someone alive after baking him in an oven, just to be a dick. Somehow, Amy's still in love with Sonic after he did this. Remember in Sonic 06 when Amy said that if she had to choose between the world and Sonic, she'd choose Sonic? This is worse. If Sega Japan approved this, I can see how they approved that. Well, I take baffling writing over something so painfully similar to the games that I'm bored out of my skull, see almost no point in talking about it and experiencing it. Because at least here, it all feels worth it because I'm experiencing something brand new. But I can't believe Sonic would remember everything he did when he transformed back to normal. What determines when he transforms back to normal? If it's on a time limit, then wouldn't it be inevitable that he transformed back to normal at an inconvenient time? And so people would discover who he really was? It'd be forced of the writing for that to never happen to him. It'd be like making him a creator's pet. It'd make more sense if Sonic just decided to turn back to normal. I don't get why he doesn't remember what he was doing. He walks back into the pizzeria after that, as I seriously wonder why the ones who translated this manga made into a video didn't do the common sense thing of separating each panel to a separate panel part of the video, and instead lays it out in a manga we're expected to read from right to left. And so naturally everyone's going to experience the left panel first and be confused. Then after Sonic's told that Sonic beat Anton up, somehow, with them failing to mention that he cooked him into a pizza, Eggman shows up, saying he saw everything, and takes off his uniform, saying that Dogman is only a temporary disguise. It's impossible to believe he'd ever go by Dogman. So, it really is just using Eggman exactly the same way he's always been used. The manga started out so mundane that I was surprised to learn that Eggman had been searching for Sonic for many years. Many years? How old is Nikki at this point? And when Eggman reveals himself, some little robots blow trumpets in celebration. So, why would he take off his disguise if he thought he needed it in the first place? Wouldn't he need a disguise constantly to hide from law enforcement? Actually, AOSDH got it backwards. It'd have made a lot more sense for Eggman to be the one constantly in disguises. Especially if he lived in a world with tons of humans who could be mistaken for him. It's pretty hard to tell what's going on after this. So, Eggman transformed into a literal walking egg with legs and a black bottom half? I wish we were told how this was possible, like magic or science. He tells off his robots for making noise because they might be discovered. I thought he wanted to be discovered because he announced his presence and said he saw Sonic. You'd think they'd have heard him take off his disguise, calling himself Eggman literally right afterwards. But since they're still calling him Dogman, I guess not. And then he goes to drive a flying vehicle that sends steam out of it. Oh, he was waving his hands around, so he did still have arms. This right here is why it's possible for Sonic to be too cartoony. Sure, it's a cartoon art style, but that doesn't mean it's good writing to have Sonic bake someone to a pizza and they stay alive. Or have Eggman literally look like an egg for no reason. It comes off as the writer not even trying. But I'm still interested in seeing where this goes. I'm definitely more interested in this than Sonic X. Then Eggman, dressed up like a policeman again, goes to talk to Anton after Anton complains about Sonic throwing him all the way into the lake. Wait, so he wasn't literally transformed into a pizza? He was just covered in the dough. That does make more sense. But not him surviving the oven, especially not when he's referred to as a lizard. Lizards are cold-blooded. So wouldn't that mean the oven's temperature would make his body the same temperature as it? Again, it's really hard for me to get used to the idea that I have to look at the panel on the right first. It makes me wish someone would re-upload this with that fixed. I wonder if they get harassed for it because it's not their video originally, even though that person wasn't allowed to put the manga up on that site to begin with. Anton wants to be of service to Eggman, who tells him to stop him from using his speed to commit pranks by luring him out for him. I guess the only prank Sonic committed was against a bully, because he's supposed to be the hero. So Eggman's just telling Anton what he wants to hear. And maybe he's only going to Anton because he's someone Sonic knows, and thus there would be more of a chance of him luring him out successfully. Well, he'd stay away from a robot of Eggman's if he was Nicky. And Eggman might be too lazy to just build a robot Anton. Still, I can't help but be disappointed that they're still using Anton as a character. Eggman's already smart enough to figure out that he could start by harassing Nicky because there's a connection between him and Sonic. Already, Eggman is way smarter than most supervillains in superhero fiction because he's immediately figured out his secret identity. So if this is superhero fiction, it's already way smarter than most. Then we see Sonic rowing a canoe on a date with Amy, having so little to talk about with her that all he can do is say that they've got nice noon weather. It's so selfless of him to be the only one rowing the canoe instead of her doing the work just because he's the guy. I guess the point of a romantic gondola ride is for the guy to show off how selfless he is because he'll do all the rowing for the girl. But it's a bit selfish of the girl to be okay with that instead of feeling guilty that she's not doing any of the work. She doesn't even paddle. If anything, you'd expect Amy to be the one doing all the paddling for Sonic. And all Amy says in response is, I guess. Can I get a little more romantic chemistry than that? Otherwise, it kind of defeats the purpose of them dating. Instead, she reveals in her thought bubble that she's in love with Sonic instead and wants to leave Nicky for him, naturally. So there's some tragic irony here because even Nicky doesn't know about his own alter ego. So Amy's gonna leave Sonic because she wants Sonic instead, not realizing how that won't work out for her because Sonic's only a temporary transformation from Nicky being in danger. Like a morally good version of the Fleetway Supersonic. I'm glad Nicky doesn't look like a hyper-realistic hedgehog, by the way. I remember thinking that he would look like that before turning into Sonic for the longest time. But of course they're smarter than that. Wait, what the fuck? Nicky can read minds? Because Amy didn't say Sonic's name out loud. Well, that is intriguing. So in this universe, Sonic has the psychic power to read people's minds, before he's even transformed. I'd expect that of Amy, but that'd be way creepier of her since she's known for being infatuated with Sonic and not leaving him alone. So he complains about Sonic being mentioned too much, being ironically jealous of his alter ego, and then Anton shows up responding to him. If Sonic had kept it simple and killed him instead of using his magic to keep him alive when he was being baked in an oven, we wouldn't have the situation. Anton says that Nicky must know something about Sonic because Eggman said so. He throws a big rock at the middle of Sonic and Amy's gondola, saying that he wants Nicky to call out Sonic so he can get his revenge. Well, that character conflict with Amy and Sonic was resolved fast, because now it's extremely obvious to everyone involved that Sonic is Nicky. That's good, because it'd be sad to see her break up with Nicky. But wait a minute, how did Eggman find out that Sonic was going to go on a gondola ride with Amy and find out where exactly they'd be? He literally just found out that... I guess he was relying on Anton knowing where they'd be. And he knew because he's around them a lot because they go to school together. Maybe they're in the same classes together, and so we'd overhear them talking. I wish I saw a little of that, but then the pacing wouldn't be as fast. It's surprisingly merciful that the story skips over them all being in school together, since it started out with Sonic at a pizzeria like a normal person. And the only hint of fantasy was him transforming for no reason. Sure, the cans fell on him, but it's not like they all broke. so there was no excuse for the hair tonic getting out of them and onto him. And I'm still waiting to be told that Anton got into legal trouble for assaulting Nikki in a pizzeria in front of a bunch of witnesses and knocking him into stuff. Nikki falls into the water and complains because he can't swim. It's sad that his parents didn't get him swimming lessons. And Anton kisses Amy's cheek against her will. So even though Amy's most well known for trying to kiss Sonic against his will, she started out being the victim of a guy trying to kiss her against her will. And Sonic was okay with her dating him. That's like the exact opposite of Amy. Not to mention Amy's just screaming instead of even trying to defend herself, when the Amy we know would immediately beat him with a hammer. This is like the exact opposite of Amy, so I'm intrigued. But I want to see an actual personality in her, because so far she's literally just his loyal girlfriend. Huh, she even has a headband. Sonic wishes to be stronger and help Amy, and again, there's no explanation for why he can transform into Sonic in a puff of smoke. I guess it's the same reason for why any Sonic character has the magical powers they do. The natural chaos energy of the world just happened to favor them because, I guess, from the way their DNA is. But him turning into Sonic is one thing, but that doesn't explain how he was able to run on the bottom of the lake when he's not that heavy, and jump super high from the top of a small hill to get out of the water, when he'd be weighed down by all that water weight. Apparently he's just that fast, even underwater, when Sonic is usually known for being severely slowed down by water. And it does make sense that he can jump really well if you consider he did that in Sonic X. So Sega Japan already approved that idea. I'm glad we saw how he got out of the water, but I'd rather see him jump on a spring instead at that point. It'd be just as confusing as him jumping that high. I have a question. Why didn't Amy push Anton out of the canoe immediately? I guess it's because he was holding her still, so she couldn't. So she just cried instead. But you'd expect Amy to at least try to elbow him. But she's doing a kinda smart thing here by not provoking him to violence when she doesn't have a hammer. Sonic punches Anton into the sky, and I wonder how he'll possibly survive the landing. Even landing in water from high up enough is like landing on concrete. And Amy's happy instead of horrified that he clearly tried to murder someone. Probably because she's pragmatic enough to not care about him, and she just thankfully showed up and saved her. Okay then. And Eggman reveals he saw the whole thing with his periscope, but wasn't smart enough to record it on camera to get Sonic's secret out to everyone. It is a good twist on the superhero fiction that even Nikki doesn't know about his superhero alter ego right away, and doesn't remember what he does in it, but it's a bit of a confusing complication. Eggman says from a submarine that Sonic's his now and orders it to rise to the surface. He made so little an impact that I forgot he just wanted Anton to lure Sonic to him, because Anton was more memorable than him at the moment from being a typical bully character in a Sonic comic. And it would have made just as much sense for Anton to have done all of that without even knowing that he was luring Eggman to him, because he would have gone there on his own anyways. Amy screams when the submarine rises up, and it actually opens up like a giant clam and traps Sonic in it, which is actually pretty brilliant. Eggman's famous for using robots shaped like animals. Well, a clam is an animal, and here he's using a machine that looks like an animal, not just a robot. So that was actually impressively creative. Everything before this point was just ideas that everyone's seen before. Even the idea of Nikki turning into Sonic, while it's new for Sonic, it's still just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde combined with superhero fiction. And we've all seen a pizzeria and a bully before. But if they keep having interesting ideas like this, I might actually grow to love this manga. It's just sad when the creativity ratio is so small that I only saw an exciting new idea by this point, and we only have a minute left in the manga issue. I don't know why Amy is dumb enough to call it a monster when it had to be clearly made out of metal. And if Eggman's been looking for Sonic for years, well, first off, why doesn't Amy immediately realize he's a machine of Eggman's from public knowledge of what he's like? But two, how in the fuck did Eggman take so long to find out Nikki was Sonic? Wouldn't he have found out that Sonic always appears where Nikki just was? And Nikki's never in the same room with them after the first couple of times? It'd be passed off as a coincidence at first, but not that much. So Eggman really shouldn't be made to say he's been searching for Sonic for years. I guess the reason he wants to go out of his way to find Sonic is so that he can take advantage of his power. Otherwise, usually I picture Eggman as wanting to avoid Sonic and do his own thing unless he's trying to kill him for always foiling his plans. Sonic calls Eggman a dirty dog, and Eggman says he's made a robot to capture him. The robot's a giant one, which is the only thing intimidating about it, since it's got a chef's hat with chickens on top, and has the word Cookman on it. So they translated that text that's not in a text bubble, but they didn't use a white brush tool from Microsoft Paint to get rid of all the meaningless Japanese text littering the manga. I'm sure it'd be much less tedious to do that for a manga that's only in black and white, because you wouldn't have to worry so much about constantly using the eyedropper tool to get the brush to be the right color. It'd always just be white. But yeah, the artist was only doing this for a joke. I refuse to believe that Eggman will make a robot like this to stand out as his first choice against Sonic. This would be something he would do after a huge amount of robots he sent against Sonic, when he's trying too hard to be creative. And yes, it's his first choice, despite him searching for him for many years, because this is when he first introduces himself to Sonic. So Cookman, which has a Mega Man style name, says to let the cooking begin, and starts sending a bunch of eggs at Sonic like a machine gun, as Eggman's holding a remote control the whole time. Wait, then it's not talking at all, and it's just Eggman controlling it. That's not a robot then, it's just a machine. And the fact that he's standing right there instead of in the safety of a mecha or something where Sonic can't get at him, makes it really predictable how Sonic will triumph here. I wonder if he'll take away his remote or break it by running at him. Like, would be smart. I get that he's called Eggman in Japan, because Japan isn't above bat jokes, while America was nicer and just called him Robotnik. But just because it's called Eggman doesn't mean him sending harmless eggs at Sonic makes sense. Unless it's to distract him from the real weapon that'll be used against him while he's helplessly standing there being pelted. You'd think someone who liked eggs enough to call himself Eggman with no self-consciousness about the obvious fat joke against himself would hate to waste so many eggs instead of eating them. Wouldn't he rather shoot Sonic with paintballs? Sonic also gets smacked by the giant spoon and spatula of the Cookman and slips on all the yolk. Great, now I'm hungry. Eggman taunts him because now it's hard to move, and Sonic gets thrown into the machine by the spatula. You know, if Sonic had just beaten Eggman up before he could activate the Cookman, like literally anyone else would do in this situation, then he never would have gotten in this situation. Why did Sonic just stop and stay still just because Eggman said, "Oh wait"? There's no way he would have had the time to say that Sonic was rushing at him. Even if Sonic had to not be running too fast since he had the time to say 4 words. Sonic had no reason not to kill him here if he was perfectly fine with sending Anton into the water and baking him in an oven. I've wanted to call him Antoine for the longest time. The names are so close. But anyways, Sonic was put in the giant egg sent out by the Cookman, and Eggman expects him to give in and become his lackey. If Eggman was smart, he would have made the egg out of such tough materials that Sonic wouldn't be able to use his super speed to do anything to it, let alone somehow jump onto Eggman the egg. I guess Sonic has super strength, and that's why he can push it along the ground and can push it against the ceilings to send it up with him as he jumps, sending it upwards. But we should have been shown that. We should have been shown the inside of it so it's not as confusing and cheap. He gives Eggman a bump on the head, though of course it's magically gone later instead of actual consequences existing. And Eggman plans to make a boiled egg, except if it was a real egg, Sonic would have instantly broken out of it by now. So he's just doing this to be snarky, warming up the egg-shaped container as Sonic's in it. He tells Sonic to knock 3 times if he's ready to give in. His response reveals that Sonic did do that, and then the egg container starts to crack, because somehow genius scientists didn't realize that the metal that the egg was made out of would crack under all that heat. There's no way Sonic would have survived all that heat if it was hot enough to crack such special metal that Sonic could just spin dash through at Sonic speed. There's no mention of rings in this manga so far, so while he can pretend that Sonic's using the natural ring energy of the world to stay alive whether he knows it or not, he's still knocked 3 times ready to give in. Why'd Eggman put a chef's hat on just to take it off right away? I assumed that part of the reason he put it on was to hide the bump on his head. I guess the heat weakened the metal of the egg container, and that's why Sonic was able to just jump out of it, because it cracked open enough for him to do so, and he jumped out of the hole. So he jumps out in a spin attack and trashes the place, apparently, by spin dashing around in circles, inaccurately calling this a rolling hurricane attack. I don't really see him trashing the place. The robots are scared though. Sonic creates a water spout that he's spin dashing around on top of, and Eggman's caught up in it. Then out of nowhere, we see what seems like Sonic saying that there's an egg storm warning for the weather report of Hedgehog Town. What a lazy name. It's just called that because Sonic's a hedgehog. But Anton's a lizard. So it's just the hedgehogs in the town being racist? That's like naming an actual town, like Chinese Town, when it's not just Chinese people there. It's silly. But I like that it's a shorter name than Hedgehog Village, which has the same problem. At first I didn't know if that was Sonic or Amy because it looked like he has eyelashes and it's in black and white. It wouldn't kill them to give him proper shading instead of just being white. Where'd it get the earmuffs? It's like this panel only exists outside the fourth wall. It's a joke. No weather report would say sunny followed by eggs, because it wouldn't be made to anticipate that the instant that Sonic made that water spout was actually an egg spout, and so it shouldn't have been called a water spout. So we see some unintentional awful consequences of Sonic's decision as a whole bunch of eggs rain down on innocent civilians, 2 of which are busy driving cars. I hope nobody crashed their cars because of this. And since when are there that many different pedestrians walking outside if this place is realistic enough to have people driving around in cars? Which automatically makes it better than the Sonic Boomtown. I guess this was the only way Sonic could escape the submarine because he was so far down. And the Spin Dash carved a hole in its roof for himself. And so we had no choice but to do this. But I'm just saying that we never saw any of the evil twins like Scourge do something like this. We did get one extremely dumb and confusing throwaway line that his gang covered Mobotropolis in garbage, but that was never shown. It made no sense. And we don't even know if it was his plan. It'd make a lot more sense if Eggman was the one who made it rain eggs, because he's Eggman and is named that. But apparently V conspired so that only Sonic did this. I'm guessing Sonic will return back to being Nicky before he'd be able to do the right thing and clean all this up. Yep, bad writing. Speaking of bad writing, he had an umbrella for Amy. So Sonic had the time to think to get an umbrella for him and Amy, but he didn't think to, well, I guess he knew it'd be futile because it was still raining eggs after it transformed. So why clean up when it's still raining eggs? Never mind. And fortunately, even though Nicky's surprised that Sonic saved her again, he just happily says that Sonic's pretty strong with a wink, revealing that he knows that he's Sonic. Probably because of Anton outright telling him that he thinks he can call Sonic, and that's the only explanation for how he got out of the water instead of drowning. But sadly, the story ends instead of Sonic immediately telling Amy that he is Sonic. Shouldn't it be obvious that she's infatuated with Sonic and thinks he's someone else? And therefore his girlfriend thinks she's in love with someone else? Shouldn't it be obvious that she might break up with him from losing interest if he doesn't tell her the truth? And I guess the picture of Sonic in the middle is not really supposed to be there. So why draw it? This issue is by Tanaka K. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. It really is a shame that we got no development on Amy as a character here. She's literally just a girl who's in love with Sonic because he's got superpowers and can stand up to bullies. Even then, he baked a bully in an oven at one point, and everyone's reaction was just as cheer instead of being afraid of him. This is the most creepy thing Sonic's ever done. And somehow Anton survived that so that he could lure Sonic to Eggman after trying to kiss Amy. Amy's in the opposite position in life from how she is later on. She's the victim instead of the one doing this or wanting to do this. And Sonic's dating her from the start instead of being uninterested. If anything, she's the one who's uninterested in her boyfriend the minute someone more impressive comes along, who's actually her boyfriend anyways. It's too stupid to think just tell her the truth as soon as possible to prevent a breakup. You'd think it'd be interesting to see Sonic dating Amy for once, but there's barely any focus on it, and they don't have any chemistry at all. When I read the story where Sonic turns into Sonic at long last, I assumed it would make sense. Instead, there's no attempt at an explanation for why he's able to transform into Sonic, and didn't just have superpowers to begin with at that point, which would be more streamlined and simple, and that's why that's usually the case. But it is a unique twist on superhero fiction, because Nicky didn't even know he was turning to Sonic for many years, and had to be told who Sonic was just now. But the many years line creates a big plot hole, because it's impossible to believe Eggman took this long to find out Nicky was Sonic's secret identity, let alone threaten Sonic for the first ever time. Also, I quickly forgot about Tanya after they left the pizzeria, so what was the point of giving Sonic a sister? She doesn't hold a candle to Sonya then, because Sonya had a backstory and a clear personality. Sonic also references having a father, who we haven't seen. It's interesting that Sega Japan had no problem at all with Sonic dating Amy and having a father and sister in a manga right in their country, where they couldn't possibly be oblivious of it. So it's not like they only allowed it for American continuities because they were oblivious to what they were doing. It's more like Sega allowed for a lot of creative freedom. I'm sure Sega had to approve Sonic Underground, just like they had to approve this. And that had Sonic having siblings and a mother as a part of its premise. So what Sega mandates? It's interesting that Sonic has a few new powers here. He can jump super high, even when he's underwater, has super strength, can create a tall water spout by moving around in a circle, and the glasses and clothes from his old look go into a pocket dimension that's possibly hidden in his shoe whenever he turns into Sonic. His glasses and weakness are the only thing nerdy about him. And even then, I think anyone would have had the same amount of trouble against Anton. The ending had a couple of idiot balls, though. Amy did immediately figure out that Nikki was Sonic from Anton telling him to call out Sonic. Sonic didn't just beat up Eggman when he saw him, and that meant he had the time to activate his giant robot on him, which wasted eggs pelting him with them when Eggman would only have so much food. It then cleverly trapped him in an egg-shaped container that tried to boil him alive if he didn't become Eggman's lackey. But what wasn't smart of Eggman was not realizing that the metal making up the container would crack open from the heat. He's a genius engineer and he forgot the boiling point of the metal he was working with. There's a lot of stories after this, and this is light years more interesting than the reboot by far. But since some of its chapters are lost because Japanese don't care about Sonic, I hope there's barely any continuity and it's mostly just episodic, because that'll mean that the chapters being lost won't matter nearly as much. I'd hate to be really confused about missing continuity.